It wasn't the field. Now we're on it? Okay, awesome. Well, welcome to an episode
Are we on?
of Gib Gabs. Now we're on. We've had like a 20 minute.
We've already been talking for so long. We know everything about each other. We grew up in the same, we grew up between each other's cornfields.
It's insane. We probably like waved to each other.
I'm sure.
And then we had to have run.
Did you ride tractors? Did you drive tractors?
I didn't drive a tractor. We had like lawnmowers, like riding lawnmowers.
Oh,
I
drove tractors.
You drove tractors?
Yeah.
I've ridden on them. My grandpa had a tractor and he had like the front, like the loader. He would let us all like sit in there.
Oh, yeah.
And we are like, this is
the big
best.
bucket for the corn?
The bucket. You're like, this is.
That's called a high boy. And I used to drive that tractor and my cousin picked.
Really?
And the high boys span over 6 corn rows.
Mm-hmm.
So one person walks backwards spanning 2 corn rows and chucks into the bucket. I know exactly what bucket you're talking about.
You're like, I've been in the bucket.
I've been in the bucket.
When the farmers buy our house, when they would like combine, they would let us, we'd like wave them down. We'd be like, let us ride in it, let us ride in it. And we had no idea who they were, and they'd always let us like take like a few laps and let us out.
Well, you have to be careful too, because my grandpa, God rest his soul, he's super dead. I said this last night about
you keep saying people are super dead. You're like, my
aunt.
aunt.
About my auntie last night, and I wasn't sure because it just came out of my mouth. And my cousins were there, and we loved.
Wait, was that their
Auntie
mom?
Claudie? No, Auntie Claudie was my grandpa's sisters. One of them is Raymond, who was theirs mom, and then the other one was Claudie.
Mm-hmm.
And Claudie, so I said super dead, and Raymond cracked up, and I was like, oh, thank God they're not. But I say that all the time about dead people. If it's more than 4 years, I'm like, they're super dead.
Super dead. All the way gone. There's like not a piece of them
like
left.
A Mario Brother version of death, where I'm like, oh, they super died.
They're out. They didn't come back. They didn't have like a moment of silence.
No, they're just gone.
But you should start saying that every time. My Aunt Claudie, super dead.
Super dead. She's
super
so dead. She really is. I mean, that's like 10 years plus.
Wow,
she
that's
is
a long
definitely.
time.
She's like super square dead.
She is fully decayed. I don't know how long it takes.
She is. Yeah, she was beautiful though. She probably looks really good still.
She probably does.
But my grandpa, my grandpa lost his leg in a combine before I was born.
Oh my God.
And this is the funniest thing. Okay, so I just shot my special in Madison last weekend, and then I did the Madison Comedy Fest after that.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have somebody who said they saw you there, Louis. One of the comics was like, he was
Yeah.
like, oh, I saw her at the Madison
he
Comedy
was great.
Festival.
And so there was a comic who talked about this on stage, and I went to him afterwards, and I was like, that cracked me up because my grandpa lost his leg like this. So this comic said on stage, it was so funny. He's like, people like to have a safe word for if something's going wrong. How about fuck? Oh God, fuck! And I laughed really hard at that because when my grandpa lost his leg, my uncle told the story whenever we'd get drunk at family gatherings, and he'd be like, I knew something was wrong when your grandpa was yelling, fuck! Oh, God! And I would laugh so hard. My grandpa had such a good attitude about it. Like,
well, you gotta.
I mean, if you lose a leg, you
have to have a personality.
You've got 2 choices. Be an asshole with one leg or be an awesome person with one leg. You've got 2 choices.
You're either waving that puppy around.
Be the awesome person with one leg. I mean, fuck you if you're the asshole with one leg. Then you're just like a wasted human with one leg.
Use good.
My grandpa used to fuck with me all the time, and he had like crooked fingers. All this shit was from farming. And so
my grandpa had a crooked finger. That's so fucking funny.
I know.
I used to try to straighten it.
Me too. And that's what I was going to say is my grandpa, one Christmas, we're all gathering around the fire because that was the thing. We were very traditional. It was like a fireplace. And he goes, Natasha, go get the hammer. I need you to fix my finger. And I went and got it. And I came back and it was like a part of the Bible where like that guy's about to like chop his own son's head off or whatever the fuck that was, and I'm about to swing the hammer down and he's like, no, and I was like, and I started bawling, and he's like, that's not how you fix that thing. It's not a fix. And I was like, Grandpa, you can't do that to me ever again. And he's so we always just had a fun. Our family was always really funny about it.
How did his fingers? Because I'd never gotten, I feel like, a real answer out of that. Because he would like tell us to try to bend his fingers, and it didn't even hurt.
And they were like severely crooked. Like it was like the little chunk of like the top chunk of your finger. I don't know what it's called. The top chunk of your finger where it bends. It was like 90 degrees bent. It was so bent. I was like, how does that even happen?
How does it just farming? I don't know what they do, but they just.
But starting at age 9, I used to work. I did slating tobacco, so I would get like 9 cents a slat or whatever they called it.
I was never around tobacco. I didn't even know that they were.
Tobacco is like
growing that there.
Stinky and gnarly, man.
Did your family like get their own, like make their own stuff out
of
it?
My grandpa his own chewing tobacco was from his farm.
That's amazing.
That's why he lived to be so old. I swear to God, everything was from their farm.
Yeah.
Real butter, real eggs, real milk from their own cows, and tobacco from his farm.
That's living.
And people are like, this shit's all bad for you. Dairy's bad for you. Smoking's bad for you. I'm like, get it from my grandpa's farm. You're going to live to be like 89. He was great.
You should have taken that to L.A. You could be making millions. Be like, you make it and I'll sell it for you.
Right?
We used to get milk up the road from a farm and you couldn't sell it because it was illegal to sell it. And my mom would like...
It was illegal to sell milk.
It was insane. It was like drug dealers with milk. God. We used to like slide dollar bills like under like this like slot where they would have it, and we'd have to get our own. We'd have to like crank the tank and put like a pitcher under there. And I hated it because all the cream rose to the top.
Yeah, and that's where they make cheese curds.
Yeah, and butter. We used to. Did you ever put it in the jar and you like shake it up until it? My brother and I we thought it was the coolest.
You can make butter. You can make your own ice cream.
Yep, we never did that. We never made.
You take the under. It's like the epidermis of what dairy would become, and you take that and you shake it with salt, and it becomes ice cream.
Maybe we did do
Put
that.
a little bit of vanilla in there.
You're like, done deal.
It's like we would eat it out of a bag. We used to make ice cream in a bag. It was like what we did on a Friday.
We're living.
Be like, what do you want to do tonight? Let's make ice cream in a Ziploc. Like, it was like
now someone's gonna ask you to like make it with like a machine. You're like, absolutely not.
Oh my God. Yeah, fuck your traditional ice cream
in Wisconsin,
made all regular and shit.
People don't realize. People think it's a joke when we're like Wisconsin, like the living, like the cheese, the dairy. Like, no, that's a way of life. It's a way of life.
Do you know how hard you have to shake a bag to make it into ice cream?
It's hard.
You have to shake it so hard that
you have to pass it around.
You're like certain that you're about to have like you're about to have a heart attack because
you're like
shaking
weights
so hard.
Shake weights.
This is how important dairy is for our I think I talked about this a little bit last night because I was venting for like the first 10 minutes on stage.
Venting about dairy.
But the day after my special was Father's Day, and my dad we had to take him to the ER because he had been having heart issues.
Oh yeah.
The last spring when I was home doing something big, I left and he had a heart attack while I was on the plane.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I guess I can't come back to Wisconsin or Chicago anymore and leave. Like my dad will have heart issues. Every time I leave, he is his heart dies.
Or it's when you come back, because now he's doing it every time you're here.
Yeah, I know. And so the day after, he like waited till I was done filming my special because he didn't want to worry me.
Oh my God. And he had already had a heart attack, and
he had already had a heart attack.
Dice.
Yes. And so he's in the hospital. He was in the hospital for 2.5 days. And when he got out the day before I came down to Chicago, the day he gets out, he still has his bracelet on and shit. And he goes to open a Coca-Cola. And then when I tell him no, he's like, oh, I can't have this. Oh, really? Oh, really? And I'm like, Dad, you can't drink Coke. You just got out of the hospital. And then he goes to pour himself a glass of whole milk.
Oh, my God.
And I think I talked about that on stage, but I just was so dumbfounded. I was like, what are you doing? And who even drinks glasses of milk anymore? Who does that?
Who's still doing this? I'll still drink it.
Who pours himself a glass of milk, just like a thick glass of cow baby juice?
James over here. James is drinking it.
You do
you've never had whole farm milk. That I would never drink.
No,
that's
thick
so
fucking
thick.
milk.
Even when you shake it, it's so thick. I would hate it because I like to drink 2% milk. I'll just drink it with like if I'm eating like anything. But like that is so thick, and
it's
it almost
so
has
thick.
Yeah,
and it's some like people chew it.
Oh yeah, and if you just get something like off the top, you're like, that's hideous. And some people, I didn't know they skim the the cream off the top, and we never even thought to do that.
No, we didn't do that either.
No,
like
we just shook it up.
No, what do you skim it with? A fork?
Poured it out. What are you skimming it with?
I
you
skimming it with. That's
insane.
like how my grandma would totally upset that. What are you skim it? What are you gonna skim it for?
For what? That's good for you.
Jesus made the cows, and the cows want to have you have the milk, so just drink the milk. That's how she would have said it.
Exactly how my family did. That's so funny.
She used to always. She was one of my first skits, like back in college, but like. I remember getting cut on the farm on barbed wire, and my leg was like hanging open.
Did you try to climb over the fence?
Yeah, into a rock quarry.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I cut my leg open, and my grandpa, since he had one leg, we had golf carts. We had golf carts just all over the farm. And so I got in the golf cart. When we were 9, we were allowed to start driving the golf carts. So it was like our first driver's license. So we felt really cool when we were 9. And my leg was like gushing. And I drove the golf cart up, and I get out, and I'm like, Grandma, I cut my leg open. She's like, oh, stop it. Just put a Band-Aid on it. It's going to be fine.
You're going to show your grandpa that he's got no leg. We don't care that you have a cut.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I'm like, I definitely needed stitches. And she was just like, it just... Like, literally, that's why the phrase, like, rub some dirt in it came to be. She's like, just put some dirt.
That happened to me. I was playing basketball, and I had gotten like a head collision into my cheekbone, and it broke. I could move it around the bone from my cheekbone, and I was like, Mom, I think we have to go to the hospital. And she's like, well, they can't do anything about a cheekbone. What are they gonna do? I'm like, Mom.
And that's why your cheek is in your neck now.
That's why you can still move it around. It's insane. Yeah. That's insane because my grandpa had golf carts. He lived in Texas, though, and he had like a big farm, and they had 2 of them, and we would get in, like I would get in one, and my other siblings would get in the other one, and we just go, and we played chicken. This was like the worst.
Yes. We so did the same thing. I don't know how we're alive.
I don't either. We collided, and we were like, my little sister was on one, and it had like a long driveway, and me and my brother in the other, and then we had walkie-talkies, and I was talking to her. I'm like, better move. She's like, no, you move. And my brother's like, she's gonna move. And we just collided.
I ran my one of my fondest memories, my cousin Carla. It was Easter, and I had a sheer dress on. It had sheer sleeves. It wasn't like I was being a prostitute at age 8.
Okay, how old were you?
But she ran me into a pine tree because she thought it'd be so funny. And like it was, but it hurt really bad.
You're like, this was funny?
And we were just talking about, because, you know, anytime you're back home, like these memories come up. My grandparents sold when they both had finally passed, our farm got sold to a family friend.
Is your grandma dead or super dead?
She's super dead.
She's super dead.
It's been a couple years. If it's fresh, it's just regular dead.
Regular dead.
But super dead, Grandma Lois.
That's the perfect
That's what her grave says.
Grandma
Super
Lowe.
dead, Gima Low.
G-Lo.
People are like, what does this stand for? My summer before senior year of high school, my family didn't have a house. Like we were in the middle, we had lost one house and they hadn't bought a new one yet. So they were living with my grandparents.
Okay.
And I say my parents were living with my grandparents because I didn't like the farmhouse.
Oh.
The farm was huge. There were tons of barns. There were golf carts. The driveway up to it was like a mile. And so when friends would come, I would pick them up in a golf cart. It was really cool. It was like a chauffeur, like what you'd get like
I'll
a
get
fancy.
You. I'll meet you at the gate.
What you see in like the movies where they're like, somebody's going to pick you up at the end of the driveway. Like that was me.
You have like the headphones
And I would
on.
use that time to smoke a cigarette because a mile in a golf cart that goes 4 miles an hour is
That's a waste.
Perfect time for a cigarette. And
did they know you smoked or they?
They didn't yet. It was with my friend Jenna. She's also dead. She's regular
God.
dead. I know.
I think you're kind of a bad omen.
She's regular dead.
I'm gonna scoot Hubert over
but
closer to me.
I love her, and she would laugh at all of this. So like that's what I always think
Yeah.
when I think of referencing somebody. I'm like, this is not out of disrespect, but like
they would love it.
They would have laughed. They were everybody I know that has died. Thankfully, I'm only friends with great people, and anybody I ever know that dies, I'm like, their sense of humor is wonderful, and mine will be too. I hope people joke about me when I die.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. I'm having that.
I'm
my
not
grandma.
here anymore, so just like have at it. You know, like roast the shit out of me.
You should
I'm
put
dead.
that in your will. Be like, I do want a roast. But for my
I do.
funeral,
No, I said I want get well balloons at my funeral. I want like everybody to be like, you're gonna make it. You bony ass motherfucker. You look really good.
You look great down there. This is the best you've ever looked.
But when I lived, so that summer was the summer I also lost my virginity.
Wait, how old were you?
At the same place, 17.
Wait, 17 at the farm?
Yeah, so my parents, before we moved out to my grandparents' farm, had just gotten a Shasta trailer. It was a 1970s camper with bunk beds. And
they had to have known. They're like, someone's banging in this.
I didn't want to live in the house. I made the Shasta trailer my room.
Oh,
that
amazing.
was my bedroom for the entire summer, and it was parked out by the cow pens, like way far away. So friends would come over. I'd go pick them up in the golf cart, and drive them off to my trailer, and like sit there.
You're the coolest girl in town.
The two, I'm not even shitting you. The two movies that we watched at night in the trailer, I had one of those TVs that had like the really fat back.
Oh
like
yeah,
the really old school ones. VHS. The two movies were Mothman Prophecies and Seven.
Oh my God.
That's what we would go to sleep to every time a friend came over, or when I was just sleeping
like,
by myself.
Oh my God.
I parked my minivan. I drove a minivan and I parked it next to the trailer, and I would go to sleep watching Seven or Mothman Prophecies. Which
you're listening to coyotes and sounds
and cows just being like,
oh, I would die.
And I lost my virginity to Mothman Prophecies while cows were mooing in the background.
That's like the most beautiful, horrific story. Was he like, this? Is she insane?
Oh
Is
my
this
God.
magical?
And my mom has no idea, and thank God she doesn't listen to podcasts or know
I'm gonna tag her. What's her name?
Just so Carmen Hansen. Carmen Marie Hansen.
Carmen. That's such a Wisconsin name.
I know. Carmen.
Hansen. That's so funny.
But like I didn't know what a condom was or anything. Like I knew, but I also was like, I don't know if I'm dying. And we wrapped the condom in a paper towel and put it on the step of the Shasta trailer, and like the next day it was gone, and my grandma comes in the house with her whole milk and all that shit, and she's like, I saw your garbage on the step of the trailer and I threw it away. And I was like, oh no.
Wait, did she say she saw it or
no,
never?
No, I don't think she would open that. I mean, it was like, what?
Were you freaking out? Were you like, no?
I was. I didn't know what to do or say, but I was like, I'm just not going to say anything. And now that she's dead, she sure knows what that was because she can hear everything. But
she's looking down being like, I touched it. I touched that. I touched that paper towel.
It was stiff. It was real stiff.
I used that to clean the milk jug. That's disgusting.
Golly gee, that was the stiffest napkin I ever touched in my life.
And I've seen some things.
Oh my God.
Wow, that's amazing. Why'd you put that there? Did you have a trash can?
We didn't have, like, no.
Oh, I remember, I don't know. I had taken like a pregnancy test one time when I was living back at home with my parents. I had like moved out and then I moved back in, and like instead of disposing of it, I like hid it in my drawer, and I was like, and then my mom like saw it, but then in my head I'm like, why would you put that there?
Why? Why did we ever do anything that we did? Why did we ever think we'd get away with anything?
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, that's a good spot.
All the parties I used to throw, like I was an only child, so when my parents started trusting me to leave town, I was like, why are you doing this? You know I'm gonna throw a party. And number one,
in your trailer and the whole,
this is like the most nostalgic conversation I've had in a long time, and it's just blowing my neurons. My brain is about to explode.
This is the perfect ending to your week, because I feel like you've been around like everybody
so
you've
much
lived
stimulus
with.
Like, oh my God. When I was in high school and AOL Instant Messenger was out, I've always been a fan of recording stuff. I think that's why I do Instagram stories the way I do now, and I like to make them natural and not thought out, because when I was in high school, before social media was a thing, I used to pause like Zach Morris situations and write down the funny things that were happening.
Wow.
And before that, AOL Instant Messenger was a thing, and I would have these hilarious conversations with people, and I'd put a floppy disk into my computer and download our conversations.
Without telling them?
I would download. I have every conversation color-coded on a floppy disk at my parents' house in the basement.
To this
still.
day.
If anybody knows how to take floppy disk and decode
James,
it.
I 100% know that James does.
Oh my
I got
God.
you, dog.
There have been some of the funniest conversations I've ever had that are on there.
amazing.
And I would label them, what date they were from. I've always been a labeler.
Uh-huh.
And so somehow I knew that would come in handy one day. And someday it's going to be I'm going to do a full-on comedy special based on these things.
That? Or like a book or
My
like a
podca-
series
my
or the podcast
podcast
series? That's
is,
amazing.
My podcast is based on an eventual book I want to put out of my comedy, of those books, those notebooks that I was telling you about. But they were
because did you journal? You seem like you were like a
I
journal.
used to journal.
Do you still have all of them?
All of them. Yeah.
See, I would get
brought them
embarrassed and I
with-
would throw them out. I'd be worried somebody would read them.
Oh
and
my
I'd be like,
God.
nah.
I brought them with because I used them to roast my audience at my comedy
Did you
special
just
because
read
I
out
knew
of it?
everybody there.
That's amazing.
And so I tabbed and pulled up all these like funny things with certain people, and I was like, you remember this night at this party? I have the date right here, and like
Jenna was such a slut tonight.
yeah, and that was true. She usually was, and she was amazing.
She always is.
And, but like there were all these like super nostalgic little moments, and I just think back of that was how I used to get caught because my mom finally put one of these floppy disks in and read the conversations and was like, oh, you had a party? Oh, you're smoking weed?
Oh,
and I was like, how do
my
you know all
God.
this stuff? And she's like, because you saved it on a floppy disk
Because you have
and
documented
you labeled it.
everything.
When I smoked weed for the first time in my parents' house, you labeled it that. Like, how would we not know?
It just says, Mom,
She's
don't
like,
watch
it was
this,
pink. It
please.
was a pink floppy disk, and we knew.
That's like my fear. Did you ever do that? Like, like the roulette. What was that called? The like
Russian roulette,
Russian roulette.
where it's like a vodka, a gin.
No. Oh, that one. That
was
you know that like
shot
video
roulette.
chat that you can do that was like AOL Messenger, but like people are just being like gross on there.
No, I didn't do that
What's
one.
that called, Jane? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
Oh, something
tell you.
something roulette. But it was like after it was like AOL and then that.
Oh, chat roulette.
Chat roulette. Where like
Chat roulette.
you can either talk to like I remember my friends. I went over to their house and they're like, we're
How old
chat
are you,
roulette.
James?
33.
33. I'm 34. Okay.
Word, yeah.
So we're in the same
Same
vicinity.
bracket.
We're in the
Same
same box.
bracket.
We're checking the same box almost. I think you might be one box under.
One
still.
box under us. Well, I thought it was that thing during that time. I don't know, but it was like
It was
huge.
either chat roulette or Omegle.
It was. I think it was chat. My friends used to chat roulette, and that was like the naughtiest thing you could do. We'd have a sleepover,
That's
and they'd
dope.
be like, it'd be like guys who'd be like, "Show us your tits," and we'd be like, "No," and close off.
Or
and
you,
we'd be like, "Let's do it again."
or you would have like a T-shirt underneath. You'd be like, okay, and it would be just.
Just that
We used
doll's
to
butt.
tease-
We'd do like our elbows, make them look like butts. We'd be like,
Oh my God! Oh yeah,
got him.
yes, this little crack of the elbow
Yeah,
was
take
like.
a picture of
But
it.
people would be like, "Why is it so blonde and hairy?"
That's just how it looks, man. It's called whole milk, baby. You ever heard of it?
I'm fertile. That's
They
what I
probably
mean.
they're running. They're out of here. That's so funny. What made you leave Stoughton? Did you do stand up before you moved to Chicago, or you were like, I gotta
No.
get?
No, so I knew in high school, that's why my teacher and all these people from high school came to my special
Wow.
taping. I knew in high school that I was a performer.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that meant though, because I don't think people really know what to do with that in the
Yeah.
Midwest a lot of times.
No, it's
And
like
so-
that. Well, is there
Did you hear
insurance
the
with that?
Wisconsin in my voice just
In
now?
the
A lot of
Midwest.
times. A lot of, oh my God. Sometimes it comes out of me and I'm just like, I can't
know.
help it.
I feel like when I drink, it comes out, or when
Me
I'm on
too.
stage and like I know when I'm doing it, like in my head, I'm like, you could
Don't
stop
ya
this.
know?
Don't you know?
Yeah, don't you know? Oh my gosh.
Sound like
Oofda.
Mary Mac. Like,
Holy cow. I can't even
Couldn't
deal
imagine.
with myself right now. I can't.
I think it's charming. When people are like, that's weird, I'm like, I think it's adorable.
Yeah, no, my aunt talks like that. She talks like that. And whenever she's around, I can't, like everything she says is so funny.
Mhm.
And she'll be like, yeah, it was a really hard week. You know, we, and I'm like,
it's always something weird with work. Be like, they didn't give us lunch breaks
They
this
didn't
week.
give us a lunch break, and I had to take the trailer down to your Uncle Steve's in Perkett, and
I can't keep living under these.
I had to replant the gazaleas because they were dying, and it says that they're perennials, but they're annuals, you know?
I almost miss that. Every time I go back, I'm like, this is nice. Why did I leave? This is beautiful.
The simplicity of it.
I know.
But that's a lot of people from where they came from. You know, I have friends all over the world now, and that's how people view a lot of their homes.
Yeah.
The simplicity of growing up in Chicago on a stoop, the simplicity of growing up on a farm. I mean, to other people, they're like, oh my God, you grew up on a farm? You were farming starting at age 9? And I'm like, yeah, it was a simple life. Yeah. It really wasn't.
No, we were working hard.
But like to us, you know, you only know, and that's what me and Joe were talking about in his book. You only know what you know.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what it was.
And it almost makes, I try to think about that whenever I'm nervous to do anything, because I feel like I was nervous to move to Chicago because I was like, oh, you know, why would I want to leave this? And then I moved here. I'm like, well, I would never go back. I would never. It's so boring to me now. And then it's almost like, what am I closing myself off to now? Because now I'm like, Chicago, it's amazing.
Exactly.
But I'm like, as soon as I leave, I'm probably going to be like, why was I holding
and when I
myself
moved to
back?
Chicago, I was like blown away. I was like, this city is so, it still is my favorite city.
Oh, no, I
defend Chicago, like, you know, with all these other comics or all these things happening in New York or LA or whatever. Whenever people ask me what my favorite city is, and I've been to so many cities, top 2 tied are Prague and Chicago.
Oh, okay.
And neither of them have like tropical weather or anything like that. But like, just like cool fucking cities. And Chicago's like, you know, when I moved here, I was in college and I knew I wanted to do comedy. Like finally when I dissociated from my past and moved to college, I was like, I can re-own who I want to be now. Yeah. And so I knew I wanted to be a performer. And I was doing theater as my minor and psych as my major, and I was going to school for my doctorate.
Do you sing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. You got it all.
So I was going to school for my doctorate because I'd always been a straight A student, and school was easy for me. Yeah. And I should have gotten a doctorate. I should have. I was taking like 24 credits a semester. It was like taking a really heavy course load.
But would you have been happy if you would have gotten your
No, I mean
doctorate?
that's what I realized is like I was in these classes that I was really interested in, like psychology and sociology, and then I really loved learning about the body and people. I really loved learning about people, but within the theater context, I realized that my love of learning about people was not for psychology purposes. It was more for like the people themselves. Like I really wanted to know how people operated and like connect with them in my own way. Yeah. And so that's what I started.
Which is very stand up. Because I feel that way. I'm like, I kind of love, even if somebody's a scumbag or like, I want to
know why. But you want to know why
they
do what they do, why they're reacting. Like that's why I've never, like people ask me, what's your worst experience with a heckler? And I'm like, I really don't have any after a decade of doing stand up, because I approach it like I need to diffuse a situation. Yeah. It's not like I think this person's trying to attack me. This person is attacking themselves.
Yeah. They don't realize how they're looking.
Hates themselves and they're having a terrible time for no reason. Yeah. Why? You know? And so like the last time I got heckled, it was actually pretty recently. I hadn't been heckled in like 4 years, and it was from another wannabe comic. Oh my god! Which I found out later because everybody was like, "That guy's trying to do comedy," and I was like, "Well, he's got a rough road ahead of him.
I don't think he's gonna make it."
But I said the word Down syndrome on stage. I didn't say anything negative about Down syndrome. I said my doctor had told me. Remember last night how I was doing like talking about my doctor telling me all these potential side effects of getting older, waiting to have kids when you're older. Yeah. One of them being Down syndrome. So like,
and he heard a trigger word.
He heard a trigger word, and I didn't say anything about it. I didn't talk badly about Down syndrome. I just said the word. I listed a bunch of potential side effects that my doctor gave me, and that's how I ended up just settling on the one that I did for my special, because I was like, oh, apparently this is a trigger for a bunch of maybe not a bunch of people.
Did you use the word? Did you say Down syndrome in your special? No, you went against it.
No.
That's insane.
But I just said the word. Yeah. And this guy freaked out, and he's like, and I said, I said, do you have Down syndrome? And he goes, no. He goes, no, but my sister does, because he booed me. I've never been booed on stage, never, because I don't offend. I really try to connect with people in a positive way, and so when he booed me, I got triggered too, and because
you've never had that happen before.
Because I've been heckled, but booing is but what I said that to him, and he goes, no, my sister does. And I paused for a second, and I addressed the room, and I said, I don't give a fuck what's happening in this person's life, but I will never apologize for any word I say on stage as a comedian. And I got like an uproarious applause.
Then did he leave, or he stayed there and tried to talk back?
No, he
you go to your sister.
He messaged me on Instagram. I still haven't responded because I didn't want to put that energy into my life before I shooting my special, right? Because this is a week before shooting, so I had to make the choice to wait to respond until I could sit down and have a thorough thought. He sent me like a 5-page thing, and it was literally him defending himself and apologizing. He apologized for interrupting my set, and then he defended himself. The whole thing was a defense. And I'm like, listen, if you have to message anybody an apology and then a 5-page defense, you fucked up. And what I really wanted to say to him is, I wanted to be like, I've had a really hard week. One of my family members died. I had to not get married and shoot my comedy special instead. Then my dad's in the hospital. Like, do you really want to be the victim here? But you can't rationalize with crazy people. You just can't.
Also, he was hoping when he booed you and for talking about Down syndrome, he was hoping that everyone would join him. Like
he was hoping that,
and he would have apologized.
Quickly didn't happen. But what the difference is when you've been in comedy for this long, and and imagine people that have been doing it for 15, 25 years, like Dane Cook and all these people. I see people get heckled or deal with certain things, and they have a choice of the way that they handle it. And I've always tried to deal with it out of acceptance and like a loving situation. There's been times that somebody has heckled me and I've been like, do you need a hug? And they've literally said yes. And I've at the Comedy Store in front of 300 people, and I'm like, God. Come here. And I like kneel onto the stage and I hug them, and I'm like, go sit the fuck down and shut up.
And never speak again.
Don't that's done. Let's discuss your issues after I'm done with my 10 minutes, which you've now knocked down to 9.
Asshole.
But that's what you want to say to people. You're like, this is a selfish
thing to do. Also, some people, I feel like they don't realize, like I try to tell myself in my head, I'm like, if you get angry at them, you're kind of gonna look bad. So like, just keep like your cool, and like you can make fun of them, like but like try to make it like lighthearted and then get back into it, because I feel like I've come across like catty sometimes, and then people are like, Jesus.
Well, it's hard
like,
not to. It's hard not to, because you're thrown. Like you always expect as a performer that people are gonna be on your page, because you hope that, because you're the one performing, you hope that they're there to see you, which isn't it's not always the case, but like at this point it's starting to become more and more the case. So I'm more almost blindsided when people act funny, because I'm like, you came knowing that I was here
to see me.
You came for me and other people, but like you can't, like
you knew it. I've had that too, and sometimes it made me not even want to invite my friends, because I would have friends come that they've never gone before, and then they're like, they're not heckling me, but they're talking during the other comics' sets, and they're like, well, they came to see me, and so they're being like, oh my God, and I'm like, can you please? And they're like, sorry, I didn't know this is church. I'm like, you're literally killing me. you're killing, because everyone knows that you're here to like like I brought you in here, and now you're like, well, that's being loud during the other comics. They're like, I thought you were funnier than them. I'm like, first of all, no, you didn't. And
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's a respect thing. I've kicked people out of my own shows. That people, I was at Comedy Store the week before I came to here, and there is this producer that I've been friends with forever who comes to a bunch of my shows. He's always a big supporter in LA. And he came, and it was a late show, and it was a Sunday, and I don't know if he was watching Game of Thrones a little bit too hard or something, but he was hammered. And he was being loud during the show, and I made them kick him out.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he messaged me the next day. He felt so bad, and I was like, listen, I love you. Thank you for supporting, but like, sorry, not gonna do that to my fellow comics. Like, you gotta go, bro.
You gotta get out. Did you walk over to him, or did you let somebody else?
No, I told him to shut up twice, and then I finally went to the bouncer, and I was like, I know him. He's harmless. Same thing I said about drunk guy last night.
Oh yeah, because you knew him, and he was drunk before he came in.
He was like at the Cubs game or something. He's a Sox fan. I don't know. His life was like in detriment yesterday.
I didn't even know what he was saying. He was
but
just like,
I have no.
blah, blah.
No, he was just like
blah blah blah.
No, he was like an alien. He was just like yelling shit. You're like, oh, you're just discovering words for the first time? He was just like
Irish. During my set, he was like, Irish. I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, okay, that's yes, that's a nationality, but we don't need to proclaim
he's probably
it.
not even Irish.
He thinks he is.
But and he's gonna have I don't really care about that, because I mean it disrupts the show, but he's not gonna remember, and he wasn't doing it maliciously because he was so drunk.
XL was on stage, and that's what I said again. I said, I know this person. I've had to say this so many times, but I know this person. They are harmless. Kick them out. They're not going to fight you. If they try to, I will go up to them and say, stop being an asshole and leave. And, and people generally respect that.
Yeah.
He had no idea where he was.
Oh, no.
He could have been in like, we could tell him that he woke up on a Navy ship and that we sent him back to Chicago. And
like, oh, all right.
Today he's probably like, what? How? Oh my God, that was a crazy 24 hours. Like, he wouldn't have any idea.
No, like Natasha who? I had that happen. I was in not Nashville. I was in Vegas. Our family loves to gamble, and we have like our family reunions there. And I was doing just some random bar show there, and so like all my family was like, oh yeah, we'll come. And then, but they were, we've been drinking all day long.
Yeah.
And they're like, and so they were during everyone else's set. They're talking back, and they're like in their heads, they're doing it in like the funnest way. And I had to be like, I'm sorry, guys. I realize you probably are never going to ask me back here again. I guess I'm going to chalk this up to.
No, I mean, but that's the fun part of it, though. I mean, you have to fuck up a little bit to make people remember you.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's a good idea.
To let people remember, to really stick in their brains, you have to do something a little bit stupid.
A little bit crazy. What is that? Like, any publicity is good publicity?
Any press is good press.
Do you feel like that's happened more? Oh, first I wanted to ask, because I feel like living in Chicago, because people either go to, LA or New York from here, but I feel like as soon as somebody leaves, everyone has the biggest opinion about it. Like, oh, they shouldn't have gone. They're not ready to go to LA, or these are the steps to take to move to LA.
There are no steps, and people, that was a big thing that I tried to drive home in my special, is like, life doesn't come with a roadmap.
Yeah.
There's not a right way to do any of it. It doesn't matter if it's your career or babies or marriage. Like, there's no proper. And so for me, when I moved to LA, I probably wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Whatever that
How far
means.
in were you when you moved to LA?
I was 26. I was about a year and a half in.
Wow. Okay.
But
That's good
I
to
was 6 years deep into improv. So I had been seasoned on stage.
Stage presence, and like,
I had done everything I really wanted to do in Chicago. And I knew I was going to have to move eventually. Because my brain and the way that I operate as a business person was in film and TV. And so I was like, I knew that I wanted to move in like a television direction. Yeah. And in order to do that properly, I knew LA was going to be the right move. Yeah. There's always so many different ways. I mean, New York, I love the comedy scene in New York is almost unparalleled. Yeah. But it's stand up, and in LA, it's much more layered, and in Chicago, it's much more real. And what I tell people is the reason that I use the trifecta of cities that I do, like when I'm honing something, I do it in my hometown of Los Angeles, obviously. And then I'll take it to New York. I'm usually playing in New York like 6-7 times a year.
Oh, wow.
So last year I was in New York for 6 weeks total, 6 separate times. So when I'm flushing out something, I'll take it from LA to New York, and if it lands in New York, I know I've got something. Yeah. And then if I bring
they have like a good stand-up ear.
Yeah, and This is what I say. LA only cares about who you are.
Mm-hmm.
New York doesn't give a fuck who you are. And Chicago just wants to know if you're cool enough to drink beers with. Like, if you
like,
can.
Are you cool and nice?
Yeah, are you cool and
and
nice?
funny?
So that's the round that I usually make when I'm trying to. So I did when I was prepping for this special, which I didn't even know I was going to be doing yet, but I knew I had the Europe tour and all that stuff. I honed a bunch of stuff in LA. Then in February went to the East Coast, and then came to Chicago and did Zanies. And after that run, I was like, okay, I for sure have 40 minutes worth of material that I love right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I had more that I had written, and then I took that to LA, then to Europe. And I was like, if this goes over in Europe, it'll go over anywhere in the US.
Wow. Where were you in Europe?
Scotland, 2 cities in Scotland, Inverness and Edinburgh.
Oh, okay.
London, Berlin, Prague, and Paris.
Wow, that's amazing.
And we I am really proud of me and Rachel, my touring partner, but we crushed our shows.
The whole thing, more than in
Every
America,
show.
or it was like about
Equally and different.
equally? Oh,
Different.
I love that. I've always wanted
Different
to go.
shit hit.
Yeah.
But like each city we'd go to, we'd have like an anecdote from the city before.
Mm-hmm.
Or you learn certain nuances. Like when I was in New York about to leave for Europe, I had met all these guys from Munich. I had done a helicopter experience.
Wow.
I'm a very adventurous person. And so I hit up this helicopter company, and I was like, because everything, I just know how to collaborate with people.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that because it seems like everywhere you go, you're just like for free, like you just like have all these connections.
It's not even that I'm looking for things for free.
No, not for free. But I'm saying you know how to like navigate any city that you go to.
I am connected with a lot of brands because I know exactly what resonates with me as a person. And so I know I'm very adventurous. I'm very free-spirited. There's certain things that I'll see and I'll say, this brand is so on point with me. And I'll talk to them.
You just reach out.
Yeah, I'll talk to them, and I have all these like press kits and stuff, and I'll send them stuff about myself and say that I resonate with you. You know, should we work together? And in 95% of the time, that's the case, because I'm not reaching out to just blanket brands.
Yeah.
I'm reaching out to people that really feel like my energy and my spirit. So when I was in New York pre-Europe tour, I reached out to this helicopter company, and they were like, we want to put you in the passenger seat up front. You can do like a piloting experience. And so I like flew over Manhattan, this whole thing. And yeah, I mean, I just ended up doing
guys from Europe.
I met a bunch of guys from Munich on that flight, and I was about to play in Berlin the next week. And they were hilarious because you hear certain things about certain nationalities and the way that they perceive humor. So I went out with these guys a couple different nights. They're all super cute. They have this really amazing brand called Suck My Shirt, and they sell out everything. Like they're amazing, and they travel the world, and they created their own brand and did everything exactly how they wanted. They're awesome, and they're super hot.
Did you get a shirt?
I didn't get a Suck My Shirt, but but I'm going to collaborate with them for I'm going to be performing at Oktoberfest this year, and we're planning to collaborate in some way.
That's amazing.
So they're from Munich, and Germany's pretty big. So Munich is basically like, Munich to Berlin is like, you know, the equivalent of like Austin, Texas to what would it be? Austin, Texas to like Chicago, I guess.
Okay, wow.
Like Berlin's very Austin, and like Munich is very Chicago. Like it's clean. There's like stuff to do outside, but it's also like, you know. So I mean, I don't know if that's the best equivalent, but about distance.
People from there, they're gonna be like, what?
About distance wise and style wise, that's a pretty good like what I can lay it out as. So when I got to when I was out with the guys from Munich, they were like, I was asking them how people in Berlin or in Germany react to humor, and he goes, oh, the people in Berlin, he's like, the Germans, they wait for things for months. So when they have tickets, they're very excited to come see your show, and so when they get there, they're just happy to be there, and they just nod.
Oh, they
He's
don't
like,
laugh?
They don't they're not going to be like, yay. They're going to be like, okay, I'm here.
Okay.
And the way he said it was so funny to me. He's like, yeah,
did you say that on stage when you went to Berlin?
I did. But I said that, and the Berlin people are dying laughing. And then I said, these guys are from Munich. And they went silent. And I go, oh, Berlin, do you hate Munich? And they started cracking up. I'm like, oh, y'all are the LA to New York of Germany. And they like laughed because they got that reference. They understood like LA to New York. And that's not really what
both of those places.
That's not what they're equivalent to, really. But they understood that. And like they found it funny that I referenced German behavior and then like talked about the fact that these guys that told me about that were from a different city than they live in. And then I recognized that they clearly don't like the other city. And so like it was this cool moment that I had with Berlin that immediately got them on my side because they were like, okay, she did a little bit of research. She said hi in German.
Wow.
She met some people from Germany. They're not the type of Germans that we want to associate with. And then she realized that. And then like we
and
went
you would
on.
have never had that experience if you didn't go random helicoptering in New York City.
Exactly. I would have never known to even reference that. But every adventure leads to another nuance that you can give to somebody on stage that makes you clearly understand or a little bit more understand who you're speaking to.
Yeah, and then reach out. Do you feel like you've gone, because do you go to just the main cities? When did you start like touring everywhere?
I started doing my own tours like 5 years ago.
Okay.
Because what I was talking to you about before the podcast, I went to that stinky ass city.
Oh yeah, the soybeans.
The soybean city. And I didn't like other people managing my tours for me. I didn't like it. I didn't want to
So you do it all yourself? You plan all the tours yourself?
Set up my ticket links myself, everything. But that's how I was able to fund my own special.
Yeah.
Like I sold everything myself. And, you know, and that's why at the end of my special, I'm going to do something cool, but I'm going to do a special thanks to every ticket holder.
Yeah.
Because they were a piece of being able to fund that project.
The whole special.
Yeah.
And have you always been business minded? Like, because I feel like that's where I'm like off. Like, I'm just thinking like comedy, stand up, and then the whole business side. And I see people advance. I'm like, well, they have a whole different brain thought.
I've always been business minded, but you have to hit a certain point where you're capable. And by that, I mean, did I have this as I knew this would be my trajectory eventually, but I had to be able to hold a crowd for like an hour and a half of just my own devices to be able to feel like I could settle into this.
Yeah.
And this last year and a half has been specifically that.
Okay.
That's why,
really cool.
you know, that's why I'm able to set up the tours that I have a great following. I have a loyal following. It'll just keep getting bigger and bigger. I care about my audiences.
Yeah.
And then, you know, on top of that, I've got the material to deliver.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, because you could be business minded, but if you're not funny, if you don't have, I hate to quote Oprah, but she says like quote preparation. She's very quotable. She's very rich. She says preparation plus opportunity equals success. So we're all going to get opportunities.
Yeah.
But if you don't have anything to back it up, if you're not ready, then it's game over. Then you just wasted something that the universe, I think the universe gives to you, you know, and then it's like,
well, and I have these yours. Like agents and managers and stuff that manage touring comics, big ones, that are messaging me, asking me how I do it.
Are you like,
and
I will pay you?
No, I'm like, no, I'm going to keep just taking all the money myself. Like, I don't want to give you a cut of something and also give you my knowledge of it.
I feel like that's happening more and more and more, like the Andrew Schultz and the, you know, Chance the Rapper. I feel like you people are realizing like, oh, actually I can do, if I get the knowledge, I can do this on my own, and I'm not paying.
Make my
I'm
own
not paying
way.
you. I have my own my best self-interest, you know, like.
And that's what like my special with. I'm so excited for it to come out because I own it.
Yeah, you did it all on your own.
Yeah, and so you know. Maybe having a company behind you gets you more eyeballs, sure, but like I feel like in this particular situation, I feel like the situation and the title and the material itself is enough to make people curious.
Yeah.
To want to watch it.
And with social media, you almost don't need any of it. You're like, you can put your own self out there. You can,
yeah.
And you're not trapped to
stupid,
anybody. Yeah. It does.
It
You
sounds
sound
stupid,
dumb when you
but-
talk about it. You're like, well, with Instagram, but it's like, well,
But I mean, that's true. It's real.
It's
You know,
real.
and say you have, I have 27,000 followers. It's not like I have 1 million, but 27,000 people is 27,000 people that know 5 other people.
Yeah.
And that's where your reach begins. So if you think about it, I'm like, if each person, if 10% of people were to pay $1 for what I'm putting out, that's 2,700. Like, you think about it that small of a scale, but that's how I was able to fund my special.
That's
because
amazing.
10% of my population came and saw me live and paid for this experience, which I created it like that. It was challenging as a performer to get in the headspace to do one shoot, but but I'm doing VIP entry beforehand and greeting everybody, having dinner with them.
You did all that before you shot the special. Oh my
because
god!
It was
and
a live event
I don't think
too.
people realize how impressive it is to do one take, one show.
One take, dude.
I've gone to tapings where someone was doing it for a weekend, and one show they completely it went off the rails. It wasn't great at all. And if they had only done that one, James, are you huffing? Have you shot a lot with one?
I can't talk about it.
Oh no!
Definitely more. My experience is you do 2 shows in one night.
Okay.
Just to get them, but one
both.
take is extremely impressive.
Yeah. One take.
Yeah. But she had to because it was a whole. It was an experience. You couldn't
Sure.
recreate
so it was
it
live,
again.
That's why I was able and comfortable with ticketing the way that I did, because it was geared towards an audience that saw me grow up, and they were there as fans of me.
Yeah.
Not even of fans of me as a comic, just fans of me as a person, which is so much more personal. And so I was like, shit, I have to make these people feel special.
Yeah.
And welcomed, and then hide for an hour and then go perform. And I have one chance, and I'm looking, and then I look out on the audience, not drinking, and then look out on the audience, have my first sip of whiskey while I'm staring at my Aunt Sharon while I'm talking about being fucked behind an Uber. And it was a surreal experience. And then afterwards I had a full-on reception, like it was my own wedding.
Wow.
And I roasted people at the reception. They'd had no idea.
So funny. Did you make people give you a speech?
Yeah. Well, I was going to have my maid of honor do it, but then I ended up interviewing with my mom, my grandma, my maid of honor, because I called them out from on stage with different things. And so, I mean, the whole thing was very, very personal to me.
Yeah.
And to everybody there. Everybody that was there even said, Natasha, this has been wonderful. It's like a full-on reunion.
Wow. Because they probably haven't
brought
seen
all these people together.
Wow.
And so I feel like this innate necessity to connect people, not just with comedy from stage, but like as a person before and after shows. And like, I really hope that that's something that I can commandeer as a comic. I don't want to feel like I'm this entity that's separate. I want to feel like I'm very involved in what.
I hope that shows in the. Did you get that when you were filming it? The the connection and the family aspect of it. That's gonna be really cool.
It's gonna be cool.
I can't wait. Do you know what you're gonna do with it
when it's done?
Yeah.
Well, we have one offer from one platform, which I can't say anything
don't
about.
say it.
I'm like, don't want to jinx it.
Grubhub.
But Uber Eats. Uber Eats. I'm paying a 27-year-old to drive around with a magnet on his car.
It's gonna be on the top.
But my director, it's his first special he's shot.
Oh,
it's
wow.
my first special I've shot. It was this film crew in particular. It was a high-end wedding videographer film crew. So we approached them with the idea, and we were like, we want to shoot this as a comedy special. We want it to feel like a wedding video that just happens to become a comedy special.
Oh, that's great.
And so we hired them. We did extensive interviewing to figure out who to do. And these guys were so cool and trendy and young, and their videography was so on point. So it's gonna open up it'll feel like it's about to lead into a wedding video.
Oh, I love that. Like the shots of you like getting getting
Yep.
dressed with with the mascara.
Exactly that.
You're crying.
And yeah, I mean, it was just it's gonna be so cool.
You should do like a shot of your fiance like on the couch eating cereal like at the end.
Sad.
Just sad in his
We
apartment.
actually buttoned the whole thing with him and I FaceTiming each other.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
That's great.
So I mean, our button is really kind and nice, and you know, he says, I'm sorry I wasn't there, and I was like, I'm sorry I did a comedy special instead of marrying you. And then
you're like, also I have a date with a model tomorrow. So
I'm such a bitch. I'm such a bitch.
I'm having a really good time.
I'm doing fine.
Fine. I love that. So when you look at like, because you do like stand up, but you also do like acting and movies and improv, like what do you see for yourself like going forward? Do you just kind of let it flow, whatever happens or?
I mean, I have these goals, but I leave my goals kind of wide because you never know what might come up. Yeah. And you have to be loose in that space. Comedy is my umbrella, and within that I allow myself the space to be creative in whatever I think is funny. Yeah. If it's a picture today, if it's tomorrow it's a saying, if it's a filming of this, a tour, whatever that is. So but I always saw myself as becoming, this animal just poop?
Oh, yeah, it probably
He pooped.
He pooped. Well, look how much of this carrot he's eaten.
What a clean little poop. Sorry, there's an actual guinea pig next to us. I never know.
This is Hubert.
And don't go and smell your own poop. That's just weird.
What if he ate it? Did he eat it? Oh.
There's special ones that's like part of their diet to re-eat their food.
To re-eat their food.
Good for you.
Didn't you talk about that last night, that you had dogs that would eat their own poop?
Yeah,
my dog used to eat horse poop. We'd call them poopsicles, and then if it was frozen in the winter, we'd be like, "Oh, he's eating his poopsicles again." He loved them.
That's what my mom called them, hors d'oeuvres. She had hors d'oeuvres, and for like 14 years of my life, I thought hors d'oeuvres were shit. I was like, "Oh,
a shit, please."
And people would be like, "Do you want some hors d'oeuvres?" I'd be like, "No."
You're like, I gotta go take an hors d'oeuvre real quick. I'll be back.
I'm just gonna lay a little hors d'oeuvre in the toy.
Like, it's cute. It's like they're like,
he's leaving like a whole trail.
Oh, well, don't call him out. Now he's embarrassed. He doesn't even want to eat anymore.
They're so symmetrical, his little turns.
My sister one time ate rabbit poop because she thought it was chocolate, because they drop like those little balls. It does look like chocolate. Those kind of look like chocolate.
I forgot what you asked me. What was I
what you see for yourself as far as going forward? And
so I always looked at my career, and I will maintain this forever, but I always looked at myself as being a blend of Tina Fey and Lake Bell.
Oh, I don't know who Lake Bell is.
She's amazing. She's an actress. She's a producer. She directs.
Okay.
She has an amazing career. She's not necessarily like the giantest name, but but she's well known.
Spot.
It's a good spot, and she's so talented and respected. And I look at Tina Fey, and I'm like, I always knew that my in with TV was going to be because of something I've created, not because I got cast in something. I don't like the rigmarole of somebody else telling me what to do. Not that I can't be told what to do. I'm totally fine with that. But
we're like, okay, I'll diva on our hands.
I don't like leaving everything in somebody else's hands. Yeah, you know, whether it be my touring or my TV work. Most of those things I've done myself. Yeah, and with
that's such a good skill set to know you have, because I feel like I can be kind of like listen to other people, like, yeah, like if I was like, I'm gonna do it this way, and someone's like, you should do it like that, I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's nice that you like know yourself.
Well, now I feel like I really do. I feel like I have a massive grasp on who I am as a person now. I mean, it wasn't always the case. I had these agendas, but like, well, agenda is like a negative term, but I had ideas of what I wanted to do, and I didn't know how to execute it, and now I feel like I know. Whoops, I just dropped the cap to that orange juice. I'm pouring myself a fresh drink. But with my director, this is the coolest thing. So 6 or 7 years ago, I was cast in this really tiny part in a movie, but it was a bunch of Second City Chicago people. It was out in LA. Oh. And it was an indie film. I knew that their budget was only like $100,000. So I went to the directors, it was 2 directors, afterward, and I said, I know I'm done with shooting my parts, but I would really like to produce on this in some way and learn how you guys work and how Hollywood works. And so I offered myself as a service. I was wrangling talent. I was like doing everything possible. There was even a day that there was like, we were shooting on a beach and this homeless woman was abusing a dog, and I'm like handling, getting the cops there. To, like,
I thought you were going to be like, get the film crew in. We got to get this.
Got to get this money shot right there. And so like all these things. And so I became good friends with the director. And so, you know, it wasn't until, you know, years later, but like about 2 years ago, we went and got a beer together. And he was like, I love your stand-up right now about your grandma. It's when I started writing about my grandma. He's like, have you thought of doing anything with this? And I was like, yeah, I have a whole idea for a series that I want to create. And he created it with me, and we finally got a production company on board, and we shot the pilot sizzle for it in March. And when we were getting ready to edit that, him and I go to each other and we're like, we should do something else, something pretty ballsy to get noticed to sell this series.
Yeah.
And like 2 weeks later, I called him and I said, listen, I'm not getting married. What if I do a special on my wedding day called I Was Supposed to Get Married Today? And he was like, that is genius.
Wow.
And so I had it in the back of my head, but I hadn't announced it yet. We still didn't know how to tell our wedding guests that we weren't going to get married yet. And then I had to go on tour in Europe. So until I got back, we didn't announce it or anything. Or
so they all still had it on their calendars, like this is the wedding.
They had saved the date. We had literally saved the date. So when I sent out my save the dates to people about my special, I was like, save the date. This is the day I was supposed to get married. Now I'm doing this. And like, so it was crazy. I mean, but we were like, you know, as a team and as a unit. And so he backed me 100% on it. We went 50-50 in on the costs. And he flew himself into Chicago and came up to Madison and stayed in a hotel without his wife, shot it with me.
Oh my God.
Directed the whole thing. I mean, it was really an experience.
So this wasn't even, your special isn't even like the finale. It's like a layup, not like a layup, but it's like a lead into something bigger. You just blew my entire mind.
I'm always seeing big picture. Everything I do, even my podcast name is a book I eventually want to release. And that's why I'm like, I want to garner this following because eventually I want to release this book that I already have written.
You already wrote the book?
Yeah. And then I have another book called Diary of a Bad Fiance, which will be a spinoff of what I just shot.
Your special.
And that one I already pitched to Edinburgh, and I'm probably going to do that as a one-woman show next year at the Edinburgh Fest. So everything's connected.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's amazing that you have that perspective, that you're looking at it all and being like, okay, this is what I want to create. And also that you don't like almost like patience. I feel like you have extreme patience, because you could be like, I already wrote this book, let's put it out there. But you're like, no, I'm looking at the bigger picture. Yeah.
You know, there's a timing for stuff. If you do something before it's ready to be taken in, you're just doing that project a disservice.
Yeah.
If I had tried to make a special happen before now, and is this going to be perfect?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Whatever is perfect. In a week, I'm probably going to find a new tag for something that I already shot and be like, fuck, I wish I would have done that. That will be life forever as an entertainer. You will always be able to improve
Tom
what you
Segura
do.
says that. He's like, every time he's almost like the ideas don't hit until I film it. And then I'm like, oh, that's what I should have done with that joke.
Yeah.
But you can't live that way. You just have to keep. And that's what I'm trying to tell myself, because I'll see one imperfection. I'll watch my stand-up clip or my podcast, and I'll be like, I'll back out of the whole thing. Like, I'm not posting this.
Yeah, you have to let it go. I mean, it's just a snapshot. You know, what you're capturing in this hour that I'm on stage is a snapshot of how many hours have I been alive? You know, you're capturing this little nugget.
Yeah.
But what you see me doing live 4 months from now is going to be a better version of that always, because it's always continually improving.
Yeah, improving and
nothing's
changing.
Nothing's ever going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And if, you know, and that was a big point of my special too. Like even relationships, I was just like, none of this has to be perfect.
Yeah.
like release yourself from this burden of having to feel like everything has to be perfect. Timing, marriage, all this stuff. Like you just have to do the thing.
Yeah.
But you know, you do have to feel out when something is ready to be like spoken about.
Yeah.
For me in this time, in this moment in my life and where I was, this was exactly what I needed to do.
This was it. And it's really great that you're saying that to those people, because I feel like I know exactly where you're from and who your family and your friends are.
Right? Because we're from neighboring
towns. We're from the same town. But like that's what it's probably good for them to hear that, because I feel like when I get the most is like the being like, well, they're kind of on like a time frame, and I'm like, you don't have to time. What are you doing? Just
it's
live, just be. It's made up. It doesn't matter. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to like feel like you have to marry this guy, and he's you know, like I don't know.
And so what? So what if you do marry somebody and it goes bad? So what if you don't marry somebody and you wish you would have?
Yeah.
Like you can always fuck. You can always like somebody. You can always shop. There's always things to do that like you're gonna be fine.
And you can decide a weekend and be like, oh, I don't like that.
A lot of people don't think they're gonna be fine, and it's like we're all gonna be fine.
Yep.
Otherwise, if we're not, we die. And then we're not here anymore. It doesn't matter. So like it's really simple.
We're all gonna be dead very soon.
You're gonna be super dead soon. But we're going to figure it out, you know, and like, you know, and that's a thing that I've really learned and released myself of as an artist. I'm like, maybe people will watch my special and love it. Yeah. I hope they do. I hope I do.
Yeah.
I don't even know, like I blacked out for half of it, because when you're doing something that's that important, you almost don't even remember.
Oh, I know.
Until the end, like literally the next day I was like, what even happened yesterday? And then people were calling.
Did I get married? I don't know.
Right? And people were calling me, and there was things that I ad-libbed in the moment because it was my wedding guest on my wedding stage. Like, I ad-libbed so much shit because it was that moment. I couldn't recreate that. Even last night in Chicago, I tried to do my hour to recreate that as much as I could for this, for some friends here.
But it was for you're like, but no, it's for
But it's different. And there was no way to prep for that because I couldn't perform in Comedy Store in front of 600 people and be like, so just imagine that you're here and it's my wedding day. Like, nobody knows.
No one knows.
Can't. So that's
nerve-wracking going into it. 'Cause you're like, who knows how the vibe is?
The 6 jokes I had up top were all things that I debuted there.
Oh my God, that makes me want to vomit.
And my closer, my entire closer was something I debuted there.
No.
I fake out.
No, stop saying that.
Do you have any idea? And I had to sit. One of my friends had come all the way. I had just performed in St. Croix. And this guy that I had just met in St. Croix on the island felt like he loved my humor so much. He flew in to watch my special in Madison. And he does biomagnetic work. So he was sitting with me before I went on stage with magnets.
Okay. I was like, explain it, because I actually have
like
no idea.
Polar magnets.
What you're talking about.
It's like polar magnets that pull. It sounds
like
crazy.
cupping?
Almost like cupping, but it extract, like one pushes, one pulls. And I had never been exposed to it before, but they use it to like, I've been, today even I woke up and I had a stiff back, and he texts me, he's like, put this magnet here and this magnet here. And I taped them on me while I was getting ready, and it pulled my back into place.
Wow, that's insane.
And I'm not in pain. And it was crazy. So he's sitting upstairs with me, and he got me my glass of whiskey, and I knew that was going to be the first time I had whiskey when I hit the stage, because I hadn't drank in like a week. Sounds like a lot. It's
to
a
me,
lot
I'm like,
to
wow.
Me.
Talk about self-control.
But I was like trying to be just super clean and crisp in my brain, and so that whiskey that I brought onto stage was the first sip I had was on stage. I hadn't drank anything. And so I just sat up for an hour next to him, and he was doing like magnetic stuff. And I was just like meditating. And I was like, I have to go and do new shit that nobody's ever heard, including myself. God. And
not even open mic'd it, not even.
No, I couldn't. You couldn't. I had tried. I had tried to go to open mic and work out a couple
Can
things.
you pretend like you're my Aunt Sally for a second?
Yeah, no. It like there was nothing worse than trying, because I hadn't been to an open mic in like 5 years, and I went to lucky. One to prep, and man, it didn't help.
No, sometimes you leave those feeling worse. You're like, I should have not done that.
No. Sometimes I mean, sometimes it's good to hear your own self say something, but like, I know myself so intimately now that I'm like, I know if something's gonna hit, I will make it hit.
Yeah.
If it's not hitting,
you will laugh.
I'm not gonna let it go until it finds its way, and that's how I do it.
You're like, sorry to keep rehashing this, but you will laugh.
And I did.
You'll get there.
And when I first walked out on stage to film, the mic, because when we had mic checked, it was empty. The room.
I forgot I've done stand up at that venue before. I listened to one of your podcasts, and then, I went with Nate, who's one of my favorites. I love him so much. He's like the nicest, and he did his Christmas. He does.
Yeah,
Christmas
I was supposed to do that one.
Oh, that's so funny.
But I never
then
had.
we would have really met. Then that would have made.
But we were meant to meet now.
Yeah.
So I what was I saying?
Oh, sorry, the mic didn't work when you took it off.
Yeah. I got down and I had the mic, and we had tuned it, but it was so low. 2 jokes in, and I yelled out to the sound guy. Luckily, my host had prepped the audience that we were filming live, and so like something might go awry. And I went to the sound guy and I said, yo, can you turn this up? And I said to everybody, I said, I'm sorry. Hello, Aunt Sharon. Hi, Cody. It's so good to see you guys. I'm going to start this over because the ambiance isn't going to be right if you can't hear me properly. Because if it's too quiet, you know, you're setting the tone for like a really mediocre set. You have to really be present. Yeah. And then I started from the top again.
Oh,
after having them reset the mic.
I hope you keep it in. I hope you.
I want to because I appreciate those things.
The little
those are
behind
messy
the scenes
things that other comics will see and they'll be like, I get this.
I forgot which comic did this, but he filmed a special, and one of them he bombed. And then it was a long time. It was almost painful to listen to. And then you flipped over the disc. I forgot. I listened to it on a road trip. I was with some comic, and they're like, you have to hear this. And like, it was really bad. And then the next special he did the same jokes the next night, and he did like really well. Yeah, he had like a heckler. It's gonna come.
Yeah, no, I mean,
but it's interesting. People love to listen to it and watch that.
Exactly.
It's really good. Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on my podcast. I've loved meeting you. This has been
one of my favorite podcasts I've done.
Oh my God.
This is one of my favorite conversations ever.
Don't do this to me in the afternoon because I'm going to ride this.
I feel like we're in a basement and it's 9 p.m., but it's so dark
like 3,
looking. Yeah. It's like 3 in the afternoon.
It's the stars. That's what does it. Well, thank you. I've loved you. You are my favorite guest I've ever had on.
Dude.
Don't listen to anybody who's been on this. I'm just kidding.
So sorry, guys. I can't.
So sorry.
But this was so fun and real and nostalgic, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. For being I loved it.
My soul sister from Wisconsin.
I know. I feel like we're gonna have this for you're like a vision of what now I'm like if she can make it from Stoughton, we can all do it. I'm gonna go back to Janesville and be like, guys, let's get out of here.
We can all be black women named Oprah. Yes. We can all do
it. One day. That's how the blackface got on your bed sheets.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, you were trying
to
be a mogul, but you couldn't hack it.
You couldn't hang. We see through you. Do you have anything you'd like to plug? Your websites, your Instagram? Where can we follow you? Let's get you to 1 million. This will probably come out
on next Wednesday.
Perfect. Okay. My social media is at NPH Comedy. That stands for Natasha Pearl Hansen.
Not
Neil Patrick Harris. I had to say that all the time. People are like, NPH. I'm like, the second one that comes up when you type in NPH on Instagram. I'm the second one that comes up. NPH Comedy.
I hope he sees your name whenever he types.
I tag him on as many things as I can. I'm like, you don't even know, bitch. We're gonna work together one day. We're gonna make magic, real magic. He loves magic.
Oh yeah.
So NPH Comedy. My podcast is called Future Role Model, where I interview comics and funny people and actors about their trajectory into being okay people after being shitheads.
I listened to one of them this morning. I loved it.
Which one?
Becky Robinson.
Yay,
the last one.
So fun.
I couldn't finish it because I had to come here.
I love Becky.
I was in the shower. It was great.
And then, and you can follow that at Future Role Model on Instagram or at Role Model Pod on Twitter. And then my website is www.nphcomedy.com. Or if you want to go to my website that's 8 years old, I still own. That one's NatashaPearlHansen.com. A lot of people tag that website. It's fucking old. It's fucking old.
Doing it.
And those Vegas dates are from 8 years ago. So don't. But nphcomedy.com is my website, and /TIX is all my touring tickets and dates.
Love it.
So
find them. Thank you for coming on. I loved it.
Thank you for having
This has been
me.
Gib Gabs
I love
with
you.
Natasha Pearl Hansen. What a name. Thank you so much.
Thank you.